Hello there, and welcome to the I Never Knew podcast, also known as Inc. This show dives into the life experiences of people who have been through it all and have come through the other side stronger, better, and triumphant. Each story is raw, authentic, and, at times, heartbreaking. One thing joins it all together, the fact that the stories can help the listener learn and grow. Hosted by life coach Maureen, she sits down each episode with a new guest who will empower the listener to set out on their self-discovery journey and start to heal. Now you'll be joined by Maureen and her special guest. Please enjoy the show.
And welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast. I am Maureen Scanlon, or Life Coach Maureen, as most of you know me. I am a master life coach, award-winning author, podcast host, and entrepreneur. And I always bring you the most amazing guests with the most interesting topics, everything related to your overcoming, your resilience, and mental health wellness. I love all of you for being here. This community is growing and growing and growing, and I'm so excited about that. And we've got more listeners than we've ever had before, and I am getting so many interactions with you guys and a lot of comments, and I appreciate that. Keep the reviews coming. We're at all 5 stars. I'm proud of that. Still 5% globally in the market of over 3 million podcasts. So that really feels good. And it really is not about the amount of listeners. It's really about the content and the quality of my listeners that matters to me. This is my why. This is my get to. And so my short little spiel on that is I'm just happy that you're here today. And what I bring you today is another most wonderful guest. I'm working on using different adjectives as I continuously use amazing. It's the one that comes to my mind because everybody's so amazing, but I'm going to work on using more descriptive adjectives today. So my wonderful, wonderful, knowledgeable, and experienced guest today is Iris McKee. And when you hear what Iris does, I think you're going to respect her as much as I do. We talked offline about how I was in the medical field working in an emergency room during graveyard shifts for years, and it is so stressful. So Iris McKee is a highly qualified and talented well-being professional. She has a master's degree in psychology and neuroscience of mental health, along with a bachelor's degree in mental health nursing and economics and psychology. Wow, that just encompasses everything. During her studies, Iris undertook an exploratory qualitative study researching community psychiatric nurses' experiences of stress and burnout and the impact of these on mental well-being, staff recruitment, and retention. And my nurses out there, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you because, the burnout in the medical field. Oh my gosh. And especially in this mental health field is just, it must be just so overwhelming. So we're going to talk about that. She has many years of experience as a mental health nurse. And this has included spells as a community psychiatric nurse, a ward manager, and a primary care mental health practitioner, all at a mental health NHS trust. Most recently, she served as a matron at international recruitment lead at the same organization. Her most recent experiences has helped her refine and finely tune her leadership and management skills. She has experience running events based on planning and coordination of trust-wide nursing assessment centers. She's had a breadth of experience that's very transferable to help all of her clients. And you're going to see, we're going to talk about how they do mental health retreats, which I think is fantastic. Employee mental health retreats, which is fantastic. So this combined with her versatility and enthusiasm for making a difference in people's lives, her purpose serves her extremely well as she leads and manages this new entity. Hello, Miss Beautiful Iris, just like the flower. How are you? And thank you for honoring us today. with your presence here.
Oh, thank you so much, Maureen, for having me. It's amazing to be here. And yeah, I look forward to us having a lovely and, thought-provoking discussions to encourage your listeners. Yeah.
Definitely. I just know you're gonna be a plethora of information, a vast array of information. And I'm gonna get my pen ready because I take notes and it helps me when you're speaking. I also do not have my captions on. Shame, shame, shame on me. I'm hearing impaired, and all my hearing impaired people, I've got your back. There we go. So I just think you're going to be a wealth of information. So here on I Never Knew, we start off with, I love that we find our purpose, but there's always this journey to finding our purpose. And so I call it the knee story, or sort of this aha moment in our lives where we decided, man, I want to do this thing differently, or this is what I want to do. Can you give us some story or experience that you've had that brought you to where you are today?
Yeah. So when I first started out in the health and social care industry, I started out as a caregiver. So in the UK, we call that like a healthcare assistant in a nursing home with older adults. And I always say this, the pay wasn't much at all. Um, but then going home and just feeling like I want to go back the next day, for me, that was just what kept me going in that field or that area and trying to have more studies to make me more qualified to do more in that industry. So I was quite lucky, but initially I had started out in retail work and I thought that was probably a purpose or like a calling, but I realized soon enough that I wasn't because I wasn't happy in that job until I started the healthcare assistant job. I was like, this is really, really what I like to do, speaking to older adults, learning from them, keeping them company, helping them, especially those that wouldn't have family come and visit them, or just speaking to them and um, having them smile. You've achieved something. I don't have to be a doctor or a nurse at that point, but I was still making a difference in somebody's life in my own little way. And that's
I really love that you said that, because I started in here in the United States. You get certification as a nursing assistant, and I started off. I did that in California, which technically that one in California transferred to Arizona as a licensed nurse. But I know what you mean. I worked on a ventilator unit in a long-term care facility, and what you're saying, and I remember this feeling, sometimes you're the only face they see. And when they light up, because they only see maybe 3 or 4 people
mm,
consistently, each nurse on shift, a doctor comes in during the day, and then you've got these healthcare assistants. That is when you can put a smile on someone's face who's confined 24 hours to the same place. I remember going home and thinking about them just like you, and thinking,
yeah, yeah.
my heart hurt. My empathy was just, my gosh, I want to make them have a better quality of life. I want to make them
Yeah.
smile. I want to make them, in the situation they're in, I want to make them feel better. So when you said that, I was like, oh, there it is. There it is. There's our connection.
Yeah.
And I love that you really took that seed. And so from there, you said, I want to learn more. I want to do
Yes.
more. And I can't
Yes.
wait to hear how we branched into the mental health
Mm.
community. So tell us
And
more.
so, as you rightly said, my first degree was in economics and psychology. So I've always loved how the mind works. So when I was deciding on what profession or which nursing um, speciality to pursue, I was more thinking, well, I love psychology. So anything that has to do with the mind, let's go for it. And I knew that with mental health nursing, as soon as I qualify, I'll be straight out there. Psychology is quite competitive. You've got to get your D-Psych, like be a doctor in it before you can actually practice. So I thought, no, with nursing, mental health nursing, I've got to make a difference in that health field, if you like. So then I pursued my another degree then in nursing. and specialize in mental health medicine so I could carry on with that interest, that passion, that desire to want to help people feel well mentally, because physically there's a lot of talk, a lot of support out there, but it didn't seem like we were talking more about mental health. And so I wanted to be part of the voice or one of the voices that talk more about mental health and enable and empower people to prioritize their mental wellness and, live well. Yeah.
Yes. Do you think we're doing better today in advocating for mental health? Like for myself, the ability to be a life coach versus going to a 4-year university. We have more access now to mental health. People have more access and freedom to express themselves. Do you think we're doing better now?
I think we could do more.
Yeah.
I think we can definitely do more. So we are better now because worldwide we are talking about it. So people, even if there's still stigma, people still want to own it and talk about it if they feel comfortable with it. I talk about my experience of burnout. I think years ago I probably wouldn't have because I wouldn't want to be seen as weak. So I would have kept quiet about it. But now I'm like, how else do I connect with people if I don't share my own experience of burnout? So we are talking a bit more, but I think we could all do a bit more because I still have some colleagues who wouldn't talk about it. So that tells me that we're still not there yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as caretakers, we always view ourselves as we're the strong ones. And so, it's hard to be vulnerable and say, I need help too. And that's really when you're in the healthcare field or any kind of a caretaker, even counselors, life coaches, therapists, we're the helpers. And we forget that we're also human. And I love that you said that we're getting better at talking about it because we're allowing a safe space to talk about it and giving more accessibility and reducing that stigma. So I love that you said that. So, excuse me. So when it comes to the mental health field in general, before we go into the nursing part, which I'm super excited about finding out how we transitioned into helping them, what have you found is trending as far as the increase in mental health disorders, or what have you noticed has been surprising to you that has changed in the mental health field?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of people probably not owning up and those that are also owning up to experiencing chronic stress. And I think it's to do with our way of life now. When we had COVID, it slowed down so we could catch our breath. But now it feels like we've started running again, and not breathing properly whilst running. So this chronic stress symptoms I've started to see more amongst my clients and, friends and family as well. And I'm thinking, yeah. And from that chronic stress, it leads to other health conditions like insomnia can set in. There can be also extreme exhaustion, and that's where the burnout starts coming in terms of the work life, but also in our personal lives, because some of us in our personal lives may be caregivers. So something that we're doing but not being paid for. So if you're balancing that at home and also balancing work to make sure that you can afford to pay your bills, then it becomes quite difficult to try and marry the two aspects of your life, so your personal life and your professional life. Therefore, it becomes really extreme, like in terms of the experiences of that chronic stress that clients or people are going through. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Balance in work and life. And the difficulty and struggle, I think, when you are a caretaker and you're in the health environment is there's no working from home. COVID allowed a lot of us who used to go to offices to sit at home and work from home. But when you're a caretaker, you're on all the time. It's a consistent staffing where it's patient care, and there's no time off from that, no holidays, no hours during the day. So I love that you realized you were feeling the burnout and you thought, this is an area that needs help. This is a place where I can help my fellow caretakers and helpers. So tell us how that developed for you.
So I started out in a high pressure job. It was a job that I was really eager to do, and I loved the whole idea of it, and also making sure that I would make a change in patients' lives as well as my colleagues. But then it just so happens that with it's been, how do I say this? A job that is in high, sort of like going up the ladder in the career comes with more pressure as well, you know. So it was about trying to give my all to show that I can actually do this job. I love it. I want to make a change. I want to improve the system, all that. But then not realizing that when you're sort of like on that track going and people are not coming along with you to help, it can be quite lonely on that journey. So then you end up doing a job for, say, 10 people, you know. So with time, you start feeling the pressure. So it didn't just happen at once, it was over time. Started to feel the pressure of, okay, I'm on this journey, the vision is good. People say they love the vision, but people are not actually coming with me on that journey. I'm trying to bring them along, but they are not ready, they are not there yet because they don't, perhaps they're experiencing the burnouts themselves. But I thought, oh no, I've got this enthusiasm, I'm motivating them, let's go, you know. And
Yeah.
then
So the
yeah.
higher you got, and that's how it is, the more success, the more expectations, the more pressure, the more stress. And what I'm hearing you say is they were excited about it, but they weren't exactly engaged in it.
No, no.
Okay. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
you end up doing this job that you think, oh, if more people were, all hands were on deck, it would be much easier. But we know that with our healthcare system and other jobs as well, or other industries as well, when people are not together and working together, it is quite hard to um, promote that vision or get that vision going, you know. So that's the whole idea about trying to enable people in workplaces to try and find, if you heal yourself first, you're able to then work together with others. But if one person is ahead of the game because they are well and the others are struggling and are not catching up or are with that person, then you will fall back because you can't do it alone. It's a job that needs a lot of people to do it together rather than one person doing it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like nobody gets left behind and we're checking
Yeah.
on one another. So you
Yeah.
think that's a very crucial thing in leadership and in helping each other in our workplace. What kind of ideas do you have for bosses? So I was a supervisor at one point, and I had the employees who were gung ho. They were right by my side, and they were going to, help me. And then I had those employees who they were just there for that paycheck, and their body language was like, oh God, what does Maureen want us to do now? So how do I get this one over here to this one? What are some tips you can give supervisors and leaders to get everyone to work as a team and to get everyone engaged? That's a challenge, right?
Yeah, you said it right there. Those who were just there for the paycheck, meaning the passion is gone, you know. So I would work with them first to find the passion and perhaps buddy them up with those who already have the passion to try and help them rekindle that passion, you know. Because if the passion is gone, what do? You can't nothing else. I mean, no other training that you provide would actually sink in because it's gone. I'll show up for training, but I'm not actually engaging, you know. So it's really important that we work with them to find the passion first. And that's a piece of work that I do around identity. So if I'm able to work with the clients to find out who they are, what really moves you? Why did you do this job in the first place? Perhaps something has happened along the way to cause you to lose that passion. Let's try and see if we can bring you back to that place where you had that passion. Unless, of course, you never had it before. So if you didn't have it before, is there something else you are looking to do? Perhaps there's something still in the organization that you can channel your energy at. So we are not losing you as a staff member, but we can channel your strengths, your passion into other departments that could help you and you could help, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. Remember the passion, because sometimes the overwhelmness of the hours and, frustration, and I don't make as much money to make a living that I want to make. And then the identity part of that, that's such a beautiful thing, because everything gets kind of clouded sometimes and we
Yeah.
forget, what are we doing? We're not just in a what they call a job, just over broke. We want something that's going to be, I always tell everyone, when you find your purpose, it's something you would do for free. And
Yes.
I and
Yes.
I would life coach for free, but don't no, I'm not doing free coaching. I'm just making sure. But I did a lot of free coaching as I was building up my clientele, and I do podcasting for free. So I know I'm in my passion and my purpose. And you're right. What I love is that you said, if there's something else we can do for you, because a lot of times we just get burned out on the same thing that we're doing. We just want something different, and maybe we can
Yeah.
reignite our passion in a different role. Or
Yeah.
I think a lot of it too has to do with our leadership. I was in corporate for many, many years before I went into business for myself. And everyone's heard my story of how my last review was wonderful. But up until that point, it was so frustrating that my work wasn't really appreciated or recognized, or, excuse me, or I just didn't feel valued. So I had no drive. I lost my drive and motivation. So, what can leaders do to make sure not only that they're in their passion and identify, I love what you said, identify that they're in the right role, but how about the encouragement part of it, or the acknowledgement part of that with your employees?
Okay. So first of all, I would want to know how that leader became a leader in that role. Do you know? So if you're a leader, you're there for a reason. You're there because followers believe in you. Followers love something about you, so they are able to follow for you to guide them. So one aspect that I really encourage or try to promote in when I'm talking to people is compassionate leadership. It doesn't mean you're soft, but it means you're understanding. It means you empathize because as human beings you're dealing with, you know. So you can still be firm, be guide people, but not in a way that you lose that humanness. Because if someone was leading me and didn't have that compassion or empathy during the time that I most need it, then I can see that person as being a good leader. A good leader should be able to know the people they are leading. So if you're a good leader, you need to know the people that are following you or the people that you're leading. You need to understand who they are as people because you spend time building that relationship with them, so that if something wasn't working right, you'd be able to pick up on it and call them and have that one-to-one conversation. I know you're really good at this, but now I'm seeing that your work is not as it used to be. So is there anything going on? Can I help you with that? It doesn't mean you are soft. It doesn't mean your staff would not value you or think that you're too soft and walk all over you. It means you care. And when you show that you care, people want to do more for you because they know you're the leader that cares. And I've had that experience where leading a team because I show that compassion. When I ask, I don't even ask them. They're like, "Can we do something to help you?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I started picking up that this is really how it should be. But if you work with someone who is just fixed on ticking boxes and making sure that we are achieving targets alone and losing the human beings who are helping you to achieve those targets, then you get to a point where it's really hard. You might get them doing it, but then that's when the passion will start. Because if people start feeling undervalued, they wouldn't really be doing it with the whole heart. So it's really important that as leaders, we are observant, we feel, we also support, we care, and it's not just in the caring profession, but as you said, in corporate, sometimes it looks like it might come across as you're a weak leader. But no, it just means you are human. And you know that if I look after the people I'm looking after, they will in turn look after me and look after the company.
I agree. I agree 100%. I love that you said that because, yeah, you do. We've all had those bosses where, it's the bottom line. It's about, bringing the money in, meeting the goals, meeting the metrics and, the stats that were required. And that doesn't motivate us because in the end, us as people, we're in this job because we care and we have passion about it. We're not in it strictly for the money. And when you have the higher ups that enforce that down the line, that's where I think there's that disconnect. And keeping that compassion is keeping that connection with your team. And you're right. I saw a statistic, and I'm probably misquoting it, but it was somewhere between, I think, 60 to 80% of employees stay at a job where they don't really care much about the job, but they like who they work with.
The environment, the culture.
Yeah, that tells you right there, we're more about human connection than we are the other stuff. So great advice there. Compassionate leadership is everything. And I think compassionate coworkership too. I think we forget to be compassionate coworkers and be there for one another and having that team member that you say, hey, I'm there for you if you need anything, and you're there for me, and I've got an ear if you want to vent at lunch, or just having more of those personal / professional without crossing lines if you don't want to. I once had a friend who she was my best friend, but I was her boss. And we had an agreement at work that when we were at work, I was her boss and she would respect those boundaries at work. And then outside of work, we were best friends. So it can be done. You just have to be very intentional about it. So tell us about some of the wellness, the employee wellness retreats that you do. And I know that you also have a book that I would love to talk about. What would we get out of a employee wellness retreat? What kind of things do we help people with?
So as I said, the human being, looking after yourself, making sure that mentally you are there, then sets you off to be able to achieve your goals and, get to that place of, I call it boldness, a place where you have greater confidence to achieve whatever you want to achieve. So we set off with like motivational speaking. So a lot of positive stuff, teaching, speaking to the clients or the participants that attend the retreats. And then we have coaching. So we do group coaching or individual coaching, depending on what the group would want. And then there is teaching new skills. So I bring in occupational therapists who teach new skills, or the coaches can also teach new skills if they feel able to, and they have that combined talent, if you like. So they are not just coaches, but they have that ability to teach skills to the people that come. And then we do some physical activity. So exercise, it could be yoga, it could be boxercise, it could be running, it could be just going for walks in the wood, something to help us get the blood circulation going. And then we also have meditation and mindfulness. So once we're spending time with each other, then we also retreat and have that time alone as well, where we're meditating and mindfully looking at, reflecting on ourselves and where we think we need improvement, where we think we're doing well, but therefore promoting it more with lots of positive affirmations and stuff like that. Yeah.
I love that. Mind, body, and soul. And they're skills that you take home with you and you utilize and integrate those into your daily life. And, I am all about the movement, I think. And I tell all of my clients, we've got to get our mind moving. We got to get our body moving. We got to get our spirit moving, and doing those nature walks, doing those meditations. And meditation doesn't necessarily mean just sitting and doing nothing. For me, meditation means listening to music in my hot tub or taking a walk, with my dogs. So it could be anything, but it's a place of removing ourselves from the daily grind and the
Yeah.
what's next, what's on my plate. So that sounds like such a fun retreat. Where do you do your retreats? Is it in the UK or other places?
So in the UK at the moment, but it depends where the clients wants to go as well. So if the clients are asking to go abroad, then we could do that. We could provide that too. Yeah.
Wow, wow. I think you all should come to Texas where I am and I'll come and do a little speaky speak and help everyone get in that place of confidence as well. That's what I do. So I just love that. We'll do a little, I have a beautiful little place here in Texas right down the road from me. I'm right outside of Austin, and it is for retreats. It's an actual like ranch house with retreats. We could ride some horses. It would be fun.
Oh, sounds
So,
fabulous.
right? We're gonna talk after this. So tell us about your book. I am so excited. It's funny, listeners. I was talking about some things that we do to promote the podcast and books off air, and I didn't even know this in her biography. And she says, "I wrote a book," and I went, "Well, let's talk about it." So tell me about your book.
Yeah. So my book is called Beyond Words, A Symphony of Passion and Action.
Oh,
So I encourage a lot of introspection, because until you've lived a life and look back and look inwardly to see what you're doing that's great and what you could do more of or what you could do better, we don't grow, you know. So it's using those strengths or my experiences to encourage other people. So mainly for people in the health and social care industry, because I speak the language that they speak, if you know what I mean.
yes, I think that's fantastic. So, I mean, again, back to our wonderful listeners who are in the health field, and I know quite a bit of people that I had worked with, as well as just in the world. We need you, and we don't want you guys to get burned out, because we need you, and that's why there's the staffing is, we're so understaffed in our facilities. It's just, we had a study recently here in a couple of our hospitals in Austin, and they were saying that it was just terrible, the ratio of nurse to patient, and that makes the stats go down, and that makes all this stuff, this view of healthcare, it makes us avoid healthcare. And that's sad. We don't want to avoid mental health care. We don't want to avoid physical health care, especially. But if we don't trust the health system because there's not enough staffing, and what you're doing is so beautiful. So my medical professionals and caretakers, Beyond Words, A Symphony of Passion and Action. Wow. Yes, I did write down every single word. I just think that's fantastic. And we do need someone that speaks the language, who has that understanding. It's hard to have someone come into the medical profession on the outside and be like, well, let me tell you how this works. If you haven't been there, man, there's no way to know the pressure that the people that do nursing and medicine, the things that they do, how much they give themselves emotionally and physically on a daily basis, daily basis. And like you said, those who also are taking care of family members at home without getting paid, but because that's what we do. We love our family and we want to take care of them. We don't want to put them in a long-term facility. And that, I've known so many of my friends, because now I'm up in age in my nifty 50s. And so now our parents are getting of age, and, you know, there's a guilt factor there too. It's like, you don't want to get burned out taking care of your own family member, but they're there all the time, and you love them and respect them, and you want to do that for them. But on the other hand, if you work in the medical field and then you come home and caretake, I mean, there's no time for you. And so this is just beautiful. This book, is it available? Where's your book available?
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Of course it is on Amazon. Everything's on Amazon. All right, listeners, you heard that. I will make sure I put the name of the book, the title there for her Amazon, her link. And then she also has, so where you can go to her website, and it's at yourvalue.co.uk. Tell us about what you have going on at Your Valued. What do you do for your clients?
So you're valued. I'm also a boldness coach, as I briefly mentioned about moving people from a place of stress, exhaustion, burnout to a place of boldness, you know. So empowering my clients with the tools they need to be able to use them. And I'm all for the early intervention. You talked about the stress in the hospitals in Austin, like nurses really struggling, um, and the ratio of patient to nurse not great, you know. Then I also believe that despite the stress we encounter, because it comes with the job that we've signed up for, the calling that we have, but then finding a way to look after ourselves. So not waiting to get to a point where we can't cope before we actually ask for help. So when you see signs about you not doing or not being your usual self, then tapping into that toolbox, if you like, to pick up those skills that we've worked on to be able to use them to move yourself or get yourself back on track before you get to a place of burnout, you know. So, yeah, that's one of the things I teach in Your Valued. And I make my clients feel really valued, providing them that safe space to talk and feel um, that they are validated, that someone actually cares about them and is listening. So active listening is one of my strong skills. So I use that a lot, and a lot of the clients have said it's really powerful because when you've gone to see a family doctor, we call them GPs here. So in the UK, the time slot that you have in an appointment is about 9 minutes. So 9 minutes is not enough time to tell you all my problems and what I'm really going through, and I need your help or teach me some skills to be able to get me well again. So providing this boldness coaching service to my clients, I give them as much time as they want, you know, and then empower them or educate them with the skills and the tools they need. So I mentioned identity initially, or whilst we're talking before. So if we work on that identity, so you know who you are as a person. So if you sleep 8 hours and that's your normal, but because work is so demanding now, you're only managing 3 hours, and you see that the pattern is consistent for 3, 5 days, 1 week, we don't want to keep going that way. So we need to move you back to your 8 hours. So we have discussions. How can you've identified that my good day of sleep is 8 hours. Now I'm having 3 hours. What's going on around in my environment, in my immediate environment, in the external environment? You know, how can I move myself, or what skills can I use to move myself back so I can be able to manage that 8 hours and feel okay to work on that 8 hours sleep, as in you feel energized and able to go to work and do what is required of you. And then your productivity at work increases because less mistakes will be made. And mind you, it's people's lives we're looking after as well, isn't it?
Wow, yes, that's such a good point. And something that I don't think people remember is that it's a 24-hour job when you're working in these
Yes.
environments. And for in my instance, working that graveyard shift, you know, I was working 12-hour shifts. So I was working 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then I was coming home and taking care of a family.
Mm.
And I was lucky to get 4 hours of sleep.
Mm.
And then the days that you're off, you have to try to adjust your sleep pattern to sleeping when your family does. I mean, your body is consistently in this,
Yeah.
you know, this terrible upheaval of not knowing when to sleep. What your mind doesn't know when to shut down, when to turn on. And because there's a day shift, a mid shift, and
Yeah.
a night shift, it's tough. And I think people that work those odd hours, I think really would need help with, for you to help them with the ability to really do that self-care. Because I know I didn't, and I did it for 11 years, and my poor body, and I had a little toddler running around and slept with one eye open. You know,
Yeah.
it was not good. It was not good. And I know that my physical health suffered as well as my marriages. You know, it was just, it really does take a toll working those
It
odd
does.
hours. What I did find though is when you are in the medical field, there's a different bond. You bond with people in the medical field like they are family. You have a different, I don't even know how to explain it except that I was an Army wife early on, and it was the same dynamic where we were all in the same boat and we really bonded in our shared experience. And when you're working 12-hour shifts 4 days a week, you're bonding with these people because you're with them more than your family, pretty
Yes.
much.
Yes.
One of the things that, and not to be on the dark side, but this is an awareness. One of the things that I noticed, and of course I was too busy with 3 children and all my stuff, but I noticed that a lot of my healthcare coworkers would have these addictions to alcohol and drugs, and that was a pretty common coping mechanism that they did. And this was, of course, in the 90s and 2000s, where we weren't talking about mental health and we didn't have resources. So do you find that has decreased, or was that something in the UK you've been aware of? What do you think?
So if I'm talking about my own experience with colleagues, I haven't come across that. But I have come across people struggling with sleep, and perhaps irritation, being irritable because of the endless pressure on us, But I haven't come across people using drugs and alcohol to try and manage the situation.
Wow.
But then I know that the more they go on with the feeling irritable and also not sleeping well, it gets to a point you can't function properly, because then you start making lots of medication errors or other errors, So it's about trying to help them identify, who am I? If I'm moving from my normal, I want to go back to my normal. So that early intervention thing I was talking about is really important. Therefore, it means you won't get to a point, or the nurse or whoever we're talking about will not get to a point where they need to use substances to try and manage.
Right, right. Or even escape, because one thing that we have to take into account is there's a lot of death and illness and sadness and emotional overload in the medical field. And we're human. We're going to feel it. We're not immune to it. We do learn to be a little more detached from it because we see it so much. But it doesn't separate us from it. And there are certain ones that really get to you. And I worked in a trauma center, and so I saw really devastating things, and especially the children. The children for me were, it was devastating, and dealing with that. And I found when I would come home, and this might be something common too with our caregivers and our nurses and medical professionals, you come home, your family doesn't understand what you've just seen. And you're still sort of processing some of this emotional stuff. Or if you're working in the mental health facilities, it's overwhelming. You're trying to stabilize people. You're trying to emotionally regulate people. And yet you're kind of taking that on because it's who we are as being empathetic people and these light workers and caretakers in the world. But you come home to your family, dinner has to be done, laundry has to be done, bills have to be paid. It's hard.
Yes.
Isn't it? To shut that off and or help them understand what you just witnessed. They'll never understand. I think that's why the bond between medical professionals is so tight.
Yeah. But then you can also find that one person in your family or circle of friends who would understand, even though they are not in the medical profession with you. So what I'm trying to say is connecting with people, it has to be meaningful people who really get you and value you as a person. Because we all, I'm sure we would agree that we all know people, but not everyone values us or we value, so we don't have that sort of relationship. So it's about finding that one or two people in your corner that that come what may, even if they are not at work and they are in your private life aspect, they would be able to, they have your back. So when you are going through those difficult times at work, you're not sharing what's happening at work because client confidentiality. But then you're saying that today I had a really tough day at work. So can we just go out for a meal? Can we just go out to the spa and just spoil ourselves? Let's do something that would not make me think about the difficult things I've been going through at work. So it's having that person because the chances of bonding with work colleagues is great, and we should have um, good relationship with our work colleagues. But the chances of you going out and talking about the events at work is
Ah,
greater still because you can't really switch off. You want to still, how did that happen? Maybe we should do it this way. So work, you'll not really break away from work. So finding that person away from work is really important as well, so that you can actually switch off or have that boundary, work is work and have home life to home life.
I
Yeah.
love that so much. I love that so much. I do. I love that. Finding one person in your circle that can distract you from the work stuff or from even thinking about the work stuff
Yeah.
is I think that's fantastic for people in the medical field because you have to have that outlet. That's your outlet. Um
Yeah.
along with your physical movements and meditation. And what I loved what you said, and it's something that a boldness coach I just think is fantastic niche. And but this is something you said a couple of times is recognizing when things started changing, or how did you word that? Recognize when things weren't stopped being normal, or how did you word that?
So when you move away from your normal, so
That's
what
it.
is your normal? So in your identity, you're finding what your normal is, and then moving away. When you start moving away, so you're deviating from what your normal is. So if your normal is 180 degrees and you start moving, oh, then you're not there, are you? So it's
Wow.
about recognizing that, okay, I'm shifting and then bringing yourself back. So you will need some tools to bring you back. So these tools are connecting with people, I talk highly about, and I also meditation. I can't sing its praises enough. It's so powerful. I've used it, I still use it, and it's so powerful because as much as we bond with people, so at work, you are there for the patients, you're being selfless, you're giving, you come home, you're giving to family. If you don't recharge those batteries, you wouldn't have much more left to give. And that's where burnout will set in.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that balance. I'm giving so much to my patients. I'm giving so much to my work colleagues because we've got to support each other when we're going through tough times at work, and also giving to the family that you love and friends. Some friends will they value your advice, so they'll come to you and dump their problems on you because they love the advice you give them. So having that your own space, as in that meditation, I call it my personal recharge space. So
Mhm.
that's when I recharge my batteries, taking that 30 minutes or 1 hour to myself and say, okay, I just love this peace and quiet. I want to be still. I want to meditate. I want to get that energy back so that I'm recharged. And when they come back in need, I still have some to give to them. So it's
Yeah.
being boundaried to find these things. If you're not boundary, so we do a lot of work on boundaries as well. Yeah.
Very, 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 very important. And I had a previous podcast guest who said, if you take 1 hour a day for yourself, that's 43 days. Would you take a 43-day vacation? No, you would not. But if you took 1 hour a day for yourself, that's pretty easy to do. And you
Yeah.
can't be your best self for others until you're
Yeah.
your best self for
For yourself.
yourself. And
Yeah.
I definitely will use that as far as I feel like that the recognizing when I moved away from my normal, I think that applies to everyone. I think
Yeah.
that's when my clients come where they're like, I don't know when it changed, but I feel stuck or I feel out of control. And that statement to me is magical, is well, when did you move away from your normal? Because we can kind of pinpoint it. If we really think back, like, well, it was usually an event or trigger or something that made
Mm.
us suddenly go a different or opposite direction or just a little wobble off our path. So I love you so much, Iris, my beautiful Iris. This has been as amazing as I knew it would be. I said amazing. I said amazing. Hold on. I have my list of adjectives. This has been shining and
Brilliant.
twinkling and
I love that.
and spectacular, splendid, and stellar. Okay, there we go. I just love what you bring to the world. I am so thrilled that you're a light worker and a caretaker in this world, because we need you, and our healthcare workers need people that can advocate as well for them, because they're not nameless and faceless. They're people and humans that have dedicated the giving, the serving souls that are here to help others. And we need to remember that when we're receiving any medical services, that this is a tough job that not everybody is called to do or even can remain doing, because it's exhausting emotionally, physically, and mentally. So thank you so much, listeners. I hope you enjoyed Iris as much as I did. Don't forget, her book is Beyond Words, a Symphony of Passion and Action. You can find her at Your Valued, that's Youre, valued, VALUED.co.uk. Any companies out there that want to maybe get your employees, if you have a medical practice, get your employees to do a nice little retreat for some mental wellness. I think it would be fantastic to get in touch with Miss Iris. And all I can say is you are fantastic. And I always end things on a high note, because we do have some heavy topics. So I'd like to ask you, especially since you're from the UK, what would be, I used to do this segment and I'm bringing it back. Excuse me. I used to do this segment called That Tastes Funny. I want to know, what's the weirdest thing that you eat in the UK that we Americans would be like, what in the world is bangers and mash? Or what is it? What is it that you eat that we would find really unusual?
Oh, this is a hard one. It's a hard one because I feel like in Britain or in the UK, we sort of have lots of dishes from all over the world. So it's really hard to pinpoint one that perhaps the name will sound funny, but when you see it on the plate, it's edible. So I don't know how to. So bangers and mash, the name, what is that? But then it's sausages and mash, isn't it? And oh, that's a hard one. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't think of anything.
No,
But
that's okay. I like that we have, and that's very true. Both Irish, Ireland and England have very unique names for stuff that are very pretty simple. I mean, bangers, and why is sausage a banger? Where, like, I love to find the origin of why we say certain things that we say, or even the foods that we eat. Like, why do we call it a hot dog and you guys call it a banger? It's silly. And I know I kind of put you on the spot with no preparation, but that was good. I love that. And I just thank you for being here. And we're going to make sure that everybody has your information in the show notes. We'll make sure that I have all those links. And I just thank you so much for being here. So hang in.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
You betcha. It was our pleasure. All right, listeners, that's going to do it for this week's episode of I Never Knew, But My Dog Did podcast. So happy everybody is here again, that you hung in with us. Do not forget to look me up for anything confidence related, life coaching, changing your mindsets, just becoming your own best friend. It's really what I talk about, is when you're your own best friend, then you go out into the world and then you're a best friend to everybody else. My books, my dog is more enlightened than I am, and my dog is my relationship coach, are available, as well as my children's book. My dog Bexley is just like me. And please take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Most of all, please take care of those furry babies, and please adopt and do not shop from your local shelters. You have plenty to choose from, both puppies and kitties. I love you all. LifeCoachMaureen.com. I'm here for you. Comments, suggestions, guests, anything, any content that you think we could cover that you'd like to hear. You guys all take care of yourselves. Until next week, I love you. Mwah!
Thank you for tuning in to the I Never Knew podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring and educational, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and spread the word. The more people that join the Inc. community, the more it can develop and influence others as we work together for a healthier and brighter future. Until next time.